Hey folks, I know this is short notice, but I wanted to, emphasize the importance of the next two classes coming up. One that actually starts tonight, the evolution of vision, and then the weekend class on sign tracking as it applies to hunting and trapping. And the more I began to think about this next group of classes that are coming up online, I began to realize that things like this, the evolution of vision, becomes very, very important, especially with what we're facing, the rapid decline of life as we know it. And it's accelerating at such an unbelievable rate. I guess I shouldn't say I was shocked, but I was at what happened over in New Zealand. I mean, and it's just, you think that you get a little more calloused and desensitized to it, but it's just the opposite. The more a loving, healing person you are, every time you're battered with something like this, it just, the poignancy, the pain, the suffering of all those people is just overwhelming. And that's not even the beginning. I mean, we're well into it now. But just to give you an idea, my daughter walks in a local store down here, and a guy walked in with a political hat on, and her coworker and him started to go back and forth, and it was the day of the shooting in New Zealand, and he said to her coworker, "Did you hear about the shooting?" And he said, "No, what happened?" He went on to explain that two mosques and over 50 people are dead and this and that and the other thing. And the guy said, that's nothing. I know 10 people right now that would have loved to have done that. That frightened the hell out of me. Let's talk about the evolution of vision, because this is a different approach, and it's not the kind of thing where it's not just about the prophecy of the future. It hits on a more personal level. Generally, you've got to be careful spiritually that something isn't self-serving. And a lot of times when you look at your own future, it'll be masked or clouded because of that issue of being self-serving. But I began to realize when I was in my early teens that this ability to see into the future on a global level and also on a personal level is not just a gift that is given to certain people. It can actually be nurtured. And let me start by reading what I wrote about this, because I feel strongly that is going to be very important to you and your family and loved ones. That's why I came in today to put this out there, in knowing what you're facing 2 days from now, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. So you've got a little bit more accuracy than just a general overview of things that are going to occur. In other words, it's on a more highly personal level. I know that many of you have read this before, but let me go through it and editorialize it. I know that this sounds like a strange title in many ways for an online class, but what it teaches is not strange at all. Over the past 40 years at the Tracker School, the teachings of Grandfather, we have looked into various ways that the spiritual and temple worlds communicate with us, and also, thanks to Malcolm, we have also covered many of the vision quests that have been found throughout the world. But when it comes to the most fascinating and powerful way of deep communication, especially as it applies to the possible and probable future, I have done little to address that very powerful subject, that is, until now. As Grandfather was teaching me the way of the spirit, the temple and the soul, temples of the soul, and of course the vast reality of prophecy, I had always innocently assumed that the ability to see into the future, both individually and collectively on a global or earth scale, was some sort of a gift, a person born with, much like I figured Grandfather was born with the same gift. Now, what I'm saying there is that everybody can do it. But I figured to get to the accuracy where it begins to hit home, becomes to be personalized, internalized, has to do with you, your family, your loved ones, your extended family. That is more of a gift, I believed, where the other way, the eternal cave, the going back into the past and things like that, were things that you could learn. But once I began to realize that this is not a gift, this is a training and an eye-opening, it made all the sense in the world. And that's why the more I thought about this class, the more poignant and important it is in what we face today. You know, coming from a Scottish background, I used to hear people who could do this having, as the Scots call it, a second sight. As you can imagine, I was in for a shock when grandfather began to teach the elements and skills needed to look into the future. Not just wild guessing, but with pinpoint accuracy. Yes, at the time, Rick and I were thoroughly familiar with the powers of the eternal cave, the veils of the spiritual path, but we had no idea that there was another route there. A route which proved to be the most powerful and accurate of any I've ever learned. As grandfather taught, it begins with premonition, moves to intuition, gut feeling, instinct, or whatever the untrained call it. But from there, it powers its way into the more exacting forms of inner vision, sensing presence, feeling radiance, and the felt sense, which is a knowing without knowing how you know. Here now is another way of reaching into not only the probable and possible futures with uncanny accuracy at a more intimate level, but to the exact event, but also the ability to go into the past equally and easily with that same accuracy. This week-long online class of Evolution of Vision that takes you into the exact teaching, the ways and the elements grandfather taught me to use all visionary experiences and journey into the future and into the past. And that's why I feel that now, more than ever, this class wouldn't have floated 5 years ago. Yeah, we were on the edge of collapse, the beginning of it. A little more than that, but the intensity of it has taken hold today. Because I said we got maybe 4 or 5 good years until that last 10 years before the red skies. And we got to go deeper, further, more personal. The other class coming up, I'm really looking forward to, and don't confuse this with any other class that I've done on sign tracking, hunting, and trapping. This is going to take a totally different twist. It's called Sign Tracking for Hunting and Trapping Exclusively, and it's March 23rd and 24th. One session we're doing in studio, one session we're doing in the field, and that depends on the weather, of course, but we will get the field work in. What I want to do, and trapping especially, is one of the most difficult things that a person can learn. You're not a fur trapper. You can't get away with 20-30% success rate. You're a survivalist. Your traps must be up there 90% in order to survive. But the problem is the location. Even more problematic is the baiting. And still, with that, you have the whole hunting scenario. You know, 99% of the hunters here in New Jersey don't get a deer because they don't know where to hunt. They don't know how to hunt it. They don't know how to read the landscape. And what I want to do is take this in-depth study into sign tracking, the nitty-gritty of all of the sign that transcends what you learned in a standard class, an advanced tracking and awareness class. Because hunting, trapping, baiting are going to become instrumental in the very, very near future. Hey, thanks for bearing with me today, folks, and I hope to see many of you tonight. Bless you.